Bradley, who's a senior project engineer, explains how devastating this was for the industry.
The domestic market now has gone back to the levels it was at before 2010, before the feed-in tariff came in. I mean, a lot of very good companies have gone bust. A lot of very good companies have shrunk. I mean, we can see it here because currently we're offering funded training to people through European Social Fund, so they don't have to pay anything. They only have the time off tools. Even if it's effectively free, people are not going on the courses.
And next April, the remaining tariff for exporting solar electricity onto the grid is also being scrapped, which he says will be a further blow for investors in solar power.
Any electricity they export, they have to give it away for free to the energy companies. So solar's gone from being something that was subsidised through financial incentives now to something where people with solar on their homes are expected to give it away for free, which no other energy generator is expected to give their electricity away for free, which ruins the financial case.
What's the knock-on effect, do you think, that will be of getting rid of that tariff where you're paid to feed electricity into the grid?
I think we've already seen the domestic solar market collapse, and I think it will be the final end of the domestic solar market in the UK, which in turn will have big impacts on jobs. So you're looking at thousands and thousands of job losses across the country, which is it's very hard to see these job losses. It's not like a big steelworks in Redcar, for example. These are like small jobs of like small companies across the UK of maybe a sole trader or maybe a company of 3 people. So it's hard to see all these job losses, but they are happening. And it means that we will have less renewable generation, so it will have an impact on carbon emissions.
One recent survey found over 40% of UK solar installers were considering quitting the industry. To survive, British companies have been forced to look overseas, to countries where there are still subsidies for solar generators.
We must never forget that every single form of energy needs subsidies at some point.
Dr. Jeremy Leggett is the founder of Solar Century, one of the UK's biggest solar energy firms, working with big foreign companies like IKEA and Nissan to expand the use of solar.
Well, if we were just reliant on the UK, I mean, it's a theoretical question, of course, because we couldn't have survived. And the fact that we have been able to build healthy businesses overseas and generate profits overseas allows us to stay in play in the UK. And of course, we're still in play with big players who are intent on doing very well when the market takes off again, the likes of IKEA and Nissan. You know, it's a survivor's game.
They've survived by expanding abroad and operate in 14 different countries, from Spain to Chile. But the UK market has shrunk, and he predicts that it's going to get worse, with the last tariff being scrapped next year.
If I needed any more persuading that we were dealing with hostile forces who basically over many years have taken every opportunity to set us back while promoting the cause of more expensive nuclear and more expensive shale gas, then this is it.
So come April, if you have solar panels, you're producing extra electricity, you're going to give it away to the grid effectively.
Yeah, and the big energy companies will take it, say thank you very much, and mark it up strongly and make a huge profit. You know, I live in hopes that the government's going to retreat from this because of all the things they've done to harm our industry over the years. This is arguably the worst, and I predict they will face a storm of protest between now and April. I hope they'll retreat. But the prize for the government in a country, you know, desperate for jobs would have been to build a domestic industry. And that's, you know, not going to happen because so many big British companies have been driven to bankruptcy or a state of massive contraction.